Hi guys, it's Paul from Locks in the City. I'm just doing a second part to the video of how I became a locksmith. So those of you that have watched the first video, you'll have seen me do a video on essentially how I actually found the path of becoming a locksmith via, just looking for a car. So going on from that, how I went from taking a hobby to becoming a locksmith, I'm going to discuss that. So basically how that came about is when I bought the new car, as I've said in the first video, I bought the Exchange Mart, looking for a new car, found the car, and then I would look through the businesses in the back of the Exchange Mart, saw one for a locksmith, that intrigued me, and that's what started the ball rolling with becoming a locksmith. So at that point, as I said in the other videos, I had some makeshift tools that I started to use, which was give me a good understanding. So from that point, as I said, I was practicing, I was getting locks open, I was enjoying the challenge of opening locks and bypassing security, and opening something that essentially had been designed to stop anyone from gaining access to your property, or so I carried that on for months. I was still doing retail, I was still stacking shelves, and I'd worked my way up into the company, but still essentially whatever position you take on in retail, you still end up stacking shelves. It becomes a way of life, covering people when they phone in sick, etc, etc. So the whole time I was there, I was unhappy, I was getting frustrated, I kind of knew I was in a dead-end job. I was learning these new skills, and I thought I wanted to see if I could actually turn it into a career. I mean, my idea was always to get into a career, but I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get to a point where I could turn around and go out and make some money as a business. So at this point, I've been in retail probably 9 years, and I discovered locksmithing 6 to 8 months down the line. I was heavily involved in, as soon as I'd finish work, I'd go home and essentially just play with locks until the next morning when I had to get up again at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And I had an area manager at the time who, well, I won't mention their name. There's one, they're not even worthy of mentioning, and two, it's irrelevant to the rest of the story really, but they made my life hell, in terms of my manager, who I was working for, went off on long-term sick through stress because of this area manager. That they put so much stress and strain on their life that they mentally broke down. They started suffering from depression, and they essentially then, as I found out later on, started having suicidal thoughts. And anyway, that was all resolved. But the guy was off work for a long period of time, so being, as it were, second in command, it fell on me to fill his shoes and manage this store. So essentially, I became the manager of that store. I wasn't being paid a manager's wage. I wasn't really being paid anything on top, but I was told that if you can prove your worth in managing the store and everything, obviously when everything gets resolved and the manager comes back to work, we can then look at moving you up in the company, or starting the process of working towards management role, like getting the title. So I was 6-7 days a week I was working, pretty much 7 days a week for a month at one point, going in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to bring the delivery in, to make sure that it was all done correctly, doing all of the checks, checking the temperatures on the freezers, the dates and everything on everything, and ensuring that people were going to turn up, the cashiers were going to be there. So you literally did everything. And the shop shut at that time, I think it was shutting at 7 o'clock at night. But obviously you wasn't walking out the door at 7 o'clock at night. You was then having to shut the shop down, you know, do all the paperwork, cash up, put the tills away, blah blah blah, you know. And I did that, and I was burning myself out, you know. And anyway, the manager eventually, after I think they was off for about 6 to 8 weeks. Anyway, they managed to get someone to cover in between times, and then the area manager came in to see me one day and just said, "Oh, you know, can I have a chat?" So I was in the freezer at the time, sorting out the freezer stock. I came out, and she said, "We need to have a chat about everything that's gone on." She said, "There's, you know, literally there's no money in the pot at the minute. There's not really a lot that we can do at the minute, but you know, if you hang with us, as soon as the funds become available and there's room, we'll start the process, you know, of working with you." And I'd heard this once too often, and you know, it was just convenient at the time for them to put me in this position and then promise me the world, and then at the end of it give me nothing, no additional money. So I lost my rag, you know, I'll be honest, I lost my rag. And I just said to him, like, "You've put me through all of this, promised me the earth, you know, I've fulfilled everything, I've not had days off, you know, and everything like that, and you deem this as an acceptable way of treating me." And she just sort of said, "Well, it's out of my control." So with that said, I just said to her, you know, "Is that all you've got to say?" And she said, "Well, pretty much, yeah." And I just walked off, you know. I said, "I ain't got time to deal with this myself, I've got things to do, you're wasting my time, so see you later." And I just walked off. Carried on with my day. Then the next day, you know, I went home that evening, and I thought, you know what, that's it, that's me done. I need to find a way out. So I went home, got on the old Google and typed in, you know, locksmith jobs, searched through and couldn't find anything. There was nothing, you know. You have to kind of remember that locksmithing's always been a bit of a hidden world in terms of, you know, up until probably about 10 years ago, locksmithing wasn't as readily shared as it is now. You know, you learned a lot of it through an apprenticeship or through family. You know, you know, it was a hidden art. That was quite tough. So then I tried all the different other platforms of jobs at the time. So you had like Monster Jobs, Total Jobs, and all these other different headhunting companies, and, you know, helped companies find staff and everything else. So anyway, I found one for a job. There was one for a locksmith. It said London, Essex. Didn't have a great deal of information. Anyway, I filled in the Monster Jobs information. You know, it's quite a long-winded process. I think I probably started it about 8-9 o'clock at night, and I was still probably doing it at 1-2 o'clock in the morning, because, you know, the time you had to do a CV, which I didn't really have, so I had to create a CV. They wanted a letter to send with it, you know, explaining why you was applying, and then you had all these 101 questions that you had to answer on their system, which I think is to help them generate jobs, you know, like created a platform for them to be able to find suitable jobs for you. And it was a really long, time consuming procedure, and at one point I got to the point where I thought, I'm just wasting my time here, you know. Anyway, I stuck with it, sent the application across, thought nothing else of it, went to bed. Had to be up at like 4 or 5 o'clock the next morning to be there back at the shop to unload the delivery. I was tempted, I'll be honest, to sort of phone in sick, but I thought, you know what, I can't, it's not in me, it's not my, you know, it's not how I operate. So I went in, but I just stuck to doing only what I was supposed to do. I was taking my lunch breaks, I was taking any breaks I was entitled to. If I wasn't due to start till 9, I wasn't going in till about 8:45, but I wasn't actually, so I was there in good time, but I wasn't actually starting my job until the time I was supposed to, and I was going home on time, wouldn't do any overtime, wouldn't cover weekends if I didn't have to. You know, I just did the bare basics that I needed to do just to keep myself employed. Anyway, after sending that job application, as I said, I went in about 5 o'clock in the morning. I had to be in, I was working away, and then come 8 o'clock, I had a phone call. You're not supposed to have had your phones on you. Anyway, I took the phone call because I was in an area where I could answer it and no one could see me, and it was actually the one of the companies that worked on Monster who submitted the job on behalf of this company that I ended up working for. Anyway, they said, "Oh, we've read your submission that you sent us. We're very happy with what you've sent. We actually sent it over to the company, and straight away they was interested in going for an interview." So I was a bit taken back, a bit surprised, but at the same time, it couldn't have come at a better time. So I decided to obviously accept, and they said to me, would I be available in a couple of days' time to go for the interview? So of course I said yes. I was tied up with work, but this was more important now. This was going to be hopefully my new career, and I had to put that first. So I actually had to call in sick on that day, which isn't something that I was proud of, but it was the only way I was going to get the time off. I went for this job interview and I had to go to a hotel in Chelsea. It's actually right next to Chelsea football stadium. It's called Le Reserve, the hotel. There's a couple of guys apparently arranged who were booked in for an interview, and as far as I'm aware, I was the guy in the middle. There was a guy before me. I was supposed to be second, and there was someone after me. So I go into the interview and I'm met by two guys. One being the owner, the other guy being a guy who was a director who'd been brought in. He'd been with this guy for a long time. Straight away I was kind of quite at ease with them. I got chatting with them. They're from Blackpool, very chatty. We sat down, and then from that point that's where this interview came, and it wasn't really a formal interview as such. It wasn't sat over a desk and looking at paperwork or anything like that, or asking me tricky questions. It was generally just sat down in the reception area of a hotel on some sofas, and just a relaxed interview, if you can even call it an interview. And the main man just sort of said to me, what experience do you have? And I said, well, I'll be honest with you, I have no experience in locksmithing as such, that out in the field, but I've got a hobby of lock picking, I'm working towards getting better and better and everything else. And the guy said, well, to be honest, do you know much about our business? I said, well, the ad didn't really state really what you did as a company. Obviously it just asked for a locksmith. It said, that experience wasn't essential but it would be an advantage. And I said, I've got some experience in terms of on the bench stuff. So he asked me a few questions on what I do and everything else, and he said, well, essentially we are a repossession company, which I was not expecting at the time. He said, we work for mortgage companies and as it were, and we literally take possession back of properties of people that have not paid their mortgage, etc., or even if they've got a loan on the property, they've taken out a loan and the property's been used as a, I think the word now, but is being used as, protection. If they don't pay the loan, the house will be repossessed. The word will come to me. So that is, that took me back a little bit, but I was at the point now where I'd gone for this interview and I needed out of reads out, and I thought, well, I'll just have to roll with it, which is what I did. Went for the interview. I was in there for probably about 15 minutes, if in all fairness. They asked me a few questions like, how would you react if you went into a property and found a load of needles? How would you find that? And I said, well, to be honest, as long as I've got all the right gear and I wouldn't necessarily be off pot by it. I'd just deal with it. A few questions like that. If you came across aggravated people, you know, how would you deal with it? And I said, well, I'd have to sort of stand back, let the bailiffs, I guess, deal with it, or whoever's there, the appropriate people, the police. And they seemed, you know, they seemed okay with my answers, but I wouldn't say that they came across that, you know, they didn't give anything away. So with that, I left, we said bye, I headed on my journey back towards home. And then I got home, well, I was literally just walking up towards the front door, my phone went, and it was a mobile number that I didn't recognise, and it was actually the main guy who I'd had the interview with. Well, he introduced himself as him, and he just said, "Hi Paul, this is so-and-so. We had an interview earlier on. We're just wondering if you'd be interested in accepting the job. We were, you know, impressed with what you had to say. You know, you have some experience, albeit on the bench. You know, sounds like a perfect thing." And I was taken back because, to be honest, I wasn't really expecting to get anything from this, but I rolled with it and just said, yeah, perfect, you know. And then they said, what sort of time scale would you need in terms of notice? So from that point, I stated to them that, you know, I was expected to give 2 weeks notice, and they were more than happy with that. Yeah, that's fine, that gives us time to put stuff in place. So I was elated. I got off the phone and straight away I wrote my notice out, and the next morning I took my notice in, and it was handed over to this area manager as well, who straight away was on the phone, you know, asking me why I was leaving, and, you know, that they had high hopes for me, and that, you know, I was doing well in the company, and I just said, look, I need to stop you there. You know, you've promised me all of this stuff and you've never given me anything. I've dedicated a massive portion of my life to helping you out and doing, and I said, like, you've never done anything. The day I hand my notice in, now all of a sudden you want to show your appreciation and my worth. And I was like, it's too late. It's too little, too late. And I was like, well, you know, the company's going places with you know, we've got these new people coming in, and the business is, you know, being remodeled and everything. And they said, like, you're going to waste a good opportunity. You know, you'll end up with your own store within the year. And I said, oh, I'd heard all this before. You know, if you were going to give it to me, you'd have given it to me by now. You know, I was just convenient because, you know, I was a yes man, as it were, and I'd be sent around, go to all these different stores when needed, if, you know, cover them if someone's gone sick, a member of management, vice versa. And I said, I don't want that life anymore. If you're not going to pay me good money, I'm going to go somewhere else. And, you know, they tried every tactic, and I said, I've handed my notice in. She said, well, you have to give a month's notice. And I said, well, I've given you 2. And they said, well, you need to give us a month's notice. We need to find someone you know, in place of you, and you know, it's not going to take 2 weeks, so they're going to need to get some form of training off you. And, you know, they tried to be a bit sneaky with this, and I said, well, can you show me, you know, where it states that I have to give you a month's notice? Because I'm pretty sure the contract that I signed only stipulated that I needed to give 2 weeks. And basically what had happened is because I'd never really signed a new contract from when I first started, I was never made to sign anything to state that I had to give anything more than 2 weeks. So I kind of just used that to my advantage, and to be honest, I didn't really care if they tried to hold my money back or anything. So I just handed in the notice and just sort of said, look, I'm doing 2 weeks, you know, that's what's been asked of me, that's what I've signed my name against, so I'll do 2 weeks. And then from that point, then they tried changing my hours, you know, make me work all the late shifts and everything else, you know, just trying to be awkward. And I was at the point where I thought, I just don't care. I've got a new job to walk into now. It might not be great, it could go wrong, but my intention was, once I made that break from retail, I was never going to go back. So I didn't really care. So I just decided to take it upon myself to just sort of get myself signed off and not go back. So I didn't do even 2 weeks notice. They tried to withhold money and everything, but it didn't work out, and in the end I got paid my 2 weeks and holiday money and everything owed to me. They didn't get to keep anything. So that's how I got my foot on the ladder into the next stage of how I became my own boss and become a locksmith. So I will do another video. This one's gone on quite a bit and I've probably waffled a bit too much, but it's funny when you start talking about this stuff how much you start to remember and how much comes to the tip of the tongue. So I'm going to cut this video here. I might record another one after this one for a part 3, and in that one we'll go in from then what happened going in with this repossession company to the later stages of becoming the locksmith. So thanks a lot guys for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Also turn on the notifications if you want to hear when my next video goes up. It'll basically give you a notification on your phone to let you know I've posted a video, so you won't have to go on YouTube or that or any of the other platforms to see if I've uploaded. So if you're interested guys, thumbs up, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Cheers guys.